Mongolian national broadcasters Mongolian news reporting team visited Kuwait, situated on the northern edge of eastern Arabia. At the tip of the Persian Gulf, Kuwait has a population of 4.6 million people and has vast amount of oil resources. Kuwait is a constitutional, sovereign state with a semi-democratic political system. Today we'll talk about Kuwait's future development plans, their foreign policy on a regional and global scale, society, culture, science, the use of natural resources, development of the media sector, and their achievements in humanitarian work. Kuwait ratified its constitution in 1962 and included freedom of speech and media in it. Through this constitution, they became the most democratic country in the region in terms of media freedom.
We have a very open media. We have private TV channels. We have private newspapers. I think numerically in the Arab world, 17, I believe, in total, 17 local newspapers. Imagine, for a country that has 1.3 million nationals and about if you add all the population, it's about 4 million. But 1/3 are Kuwaiti, 2/3 are expats. So yes, I mean, this is the whole idea of the foreign media sector, is to interact with the international media, to learn from them, and hopefully they can learn from us as well. As for technology, we are very much involved in social media. You know, I mean, we have a dedicated sector for that now, because it's the new media. You know, even if you notice, if you're a newspaper and you have not turned to social media, you will fail.
Although Kuwait is a small nation, they have a strong foreign policy of neutrality, and the government focuses on its economy above other sectors. In 1613, the town of Kuwait was founded where modern-day Kuwait City lies. Administratively, it was a sheikhdom ruled by local sheikhs. In 1716, the Bani Utub, a native nomad, settled in Kuwait, which at that time was inhabited by a few fishermen and primarily functioned as a fishing village. In the 18th century, Kuwait prospered and rapidly became the principal commercial center for the transit of goods between India, Muscat, Baghdad and Arabia. Around 1756, the ancestors of the current leaders of Kuwait, the Sabah family, came into power in Kuwait. In the 1890s, Kuwait was threatened by the Ottoman Empire. In a bid to address its security issues, the then ruler, Sheikh Mubarak al-Sabah, signed an agreement with the British government in India, and his territory became a British protectorate. The Sheikhdom of Kuwait remained a British protectorate from 1899 until 1961. In June 1961, Kuwait became independent with the end of British protectorate status. Kuwait became the 111th member state of the United Nations in May 1963. Kuwait has a constitutional monarchy and a semi-democratic political system. After declaring their independence from Britain in 1961, Kuwait declared their first constitution in 1962, becoming the most democratic and liberal country in the Arab world. Under the terms of the newly drafted constitution, Kuwait held its first parliamentary elections in 1963. Kuwait was the first of the Arab states of the Persian Gulf to establish a constitution and parliament. According to the constitution, the emir can appoint and unseat the prime minister. Parliament members are appointed by the emir with a consultation from the prime minister. The emir also has the right to unseat ministers, dissolve the parliament, issue decrees, approve laws when the parliament is not operational, and veto any laws. Kuwait has a mixed system of people choosing members of parliament and the emir choosing the executive authority. Traditionally, members of Emirs al-Sabah family are appointed to the main seats of power: Prime Minister, Minister of Internal Affairs, Minister of Defense, and Minister of Foreign Affairs. Emir Sabah al-Ahmad al-Jabr al-Sabah has been leading Kuwait since January 29, 2006. The system of choosing legislative representatives without party segregation is a model system among monarchies. Emir al-Sabah issued a decree in 2005 allowing women to vote and be elected to office.
You know, we have a minister as a woman, we have a parliamentarian, a woman, which is, you know, just a few years ago this was not available. Now we see it more and more, and I think Kuwait is pushing for more and more of women involvement in all sectors of the government. So we have ambassadors, women. So absolutely, this is something I'm very proud of in Kuwait. And please feel free to ask women when you go around walking anywhere.
Kuwait covers over 17.8 cubic kilometers of land and borders Iraq, Saudi Arabia and Iran. Kuwait has several islands, the largest one being Bubiyan. As of 2019, Kuwait was home to 4.6 million people, with 1.4 million people, or 31.3%, being Kuwaiti, and the remaining 70% being foreign nationals. The majority of the population, 76.7%, is Islamic, 17.3% is Christian, and the remaining 9% follow other religions. The official language of Kuwait is Arabic. However, English is popular due to the country's history of being a British protectorate. As one of the leading countries in terms of natural resources, they have spent a majority of income from this sector on improving the lives of their people. Fuel is almost 3 times cheaper in Kuwait than in Mongolia, and this low price is because of social welfare. Universal healthcare is free for all Kuwait natives, and the cost for treatment abroad is fully covered by the government. Children receive monthly benefits, and each new family receives a certain amount of money. The monthly expenses of Kuwaiti nationals are covered by the government by income from natural resources. The government appoints child care providers to families with more than 4 children. Education is also free in Kuwait, and the government provides scholarships for studying abroad. All these benefits are only for Kuwaiti nationals, however. Foreign immigrants and migrant workers, who make up 70% of the country's population, receive discounted health care. People generally think of the desert, camels, white robes, and women hiding behind veils when they think of the Arab world. However, it's much different in real life. Although Kuwait is developing along with the rest of the world, they still retain their Arab culture, unique characteristics, and history. Many people wear their traditional clothes daily, and women choose whether or not to wear a hijab depending on their religion, culture, and personal preference. Men often wear a thaw, an ankle-length robe. Men wear a white thaw during the summer and gray during winter. Male members of the royal family wear a thaw with a yellow lining to signify their status. In the early 20th century, Kuwait faced a severe economic recession due to trade sanctions and a global economic recession. During World War I, Kuwait's leaders supported the Ottoman Empire, and because of this, Great Britain put economic sanctions on Kuwait. These sanctions resulted in huge losses for Kuwait's economy, since pearl farming and trade were the country's biggest economic drivers before the emergence of the oil industry. During the Great War, the demand for pearls dropped, and European trade with Indian and African countries greatly decreased, causing severe consequences for Kuwait's economy. Around the 1930s, oil resources were discovered in Kuwait, and the oil industry began developing in the country, which became a stepping stone for the country's modern-day development. Kuwait started exporting oil in 1946, and the period of 1946 to 1982 is often referred to by Western academics as Kuwait's golden era. Oil export greatly boosted the economy, and people's living standards increased over time. In 1952, Kuwait became the biggest oil industry in Persian Gulf, and the sudden growth in the economy attracted labor from other countries such as Palestine, India, and Egypt. In the 1980s, oil prices dropped due to conflict in Iran and Iraq, putting Kuwait in yet another economic crisis and unstable geopolitical location. Iraq invaded Kuwait on August 2, 1990, claiming that Iraq's economy fell because Kuwait refused to decrease its oil extraction. As part of a scorched earth policy, Iraqi forces set fire to nearly 700 oil wells. After Iraq's invasion, Kuwait spent over $5 billion on re-establishing their oil industry. They became the main ally of the United States in the Persian Gulf, and as of today, there are 13,000 US soldiers currently stationed in Kuwait. The country is part of the Gulf Cooperation Council, a political and economic alliance of 6 countries on the Arabian Peninsula. As of 2018, Kuwait's GDP was $303 billion and GDP per capita was $69,669. The World Bank estimated that Kuwait ranks 7th in the world for GDP per capita, coming in just after Qatar among the Persian Gulf countries. Kuwait's currency, the dinar, is one of the strongest currency in the world. One Kuwait dinar equals $3.27. Other than the oil industry, finance is one of the most developed sectors in the country. Private and micro businesses, as well as startups, have been ever increasing in Kuwait in recent years. Under the constitution, all natural resources are government property. The main export products are oil, processed oil products and fertilizers, and Kuwait's main export partners are South Korea, the People's Republic of China, India, Japan, the US, Pakistan and Singapore. Kuwait imports mostly food products, construction materials, cars, parts and clothes from China, the US, Saudi Arabia, Japan, Germany, France and India.
A new sector rise is the aviation sector. Yes. The new airport, the logistics, the North Development Zone. We have another airport coming in Kuwait. There's $8 billion will be spent in the next 5 years in the aviation sector. So it's 6 now: oil and gas, infrastructure, healthcare, education, ICT, and aviation.
Kuwait has very efficient resource management and is a model country in the Persian Gulf when it comes to distributing its wealth equally among its citizens. The nation's oil income is spent very wisely. The country has the Kuwait Investment Fund and the Future Generation Fund. Through these funds, Kuwait City was filled with skyscrapers only a decade after the war. The investment fund is financed by income from oil and purchase stock in the world's biggest companies and corporations.
Kuwait Fund for Arab Economic Development, established in 1961, in December 1961, with the capital of 2 million Kuwaiti dinar, and mainly at that time to assist the Arab country, sister country in the region. And throughout the history, throughout the time, the capital of the Kuwait Fund being increased from 2 million Kuwaiti dinar to 200 million Kuwaiti dinar, and lately to 2 billion Kuwaiti dinar. That's around 6.6 billion US dollar. We, as I mentioned, originally we had operation in the Arab country. Then in early 70, we expanded our operation to cover Africa. Then a couple of years after that, we expanded to cover Asia, especially Southeast Asia. Then after liberation, we expanded to cover Central Asia and Eastern Europe. And the last region we are covering now is the Caribbean, Latin America and Caribbean. We have operation in more than 107 countries all over the world, covering almost all sectors in the infrastructure project. Kuwait Fund being known is to receive the request of the recipient country. We do not impose our will or our requirement on those countries. So most of the project, and mainly they are in the transportation sector, and the road project, being received as per the Mongolian government request. And we financed those projects. We had a good score in completing those projects, besides the technical assistance that we finance. And of course, as you mentioned, the government grant for the power plan called Tashir at that time, power plant. I have a good memory, then I remember. And lately we have the trauma center hospital. This is a government grant being administered by Kuwait Fund.
After being liberated from Iraq through an international effort, Kuwait started investing in foreign nations in order to maintain their national security. In other words, Kuwait expands friendly cooperation with nations and fulfills their external security policy by providing soft loans and development support. As part of the soft power policy, Kuwait provides soft loans and grants to developing nations. Kuwait is one of the biggest international investors and loan providers. They also receive foreign investment and gain know-how, above all else, to secure their future economic development, since they are mostly dependent on the oil industry. To develop their economy independently from the oil industry, they receive investment from foreign nations in strategically important sectors such as advanced technology, infrastructure, and construction.
We are focusing on transferring what is called efficiency-seeking FDI, the efficiency-seeking foreign direct investment, that we are looking for companies that has experience, many years experience, to transfer this knowledge to Kuwait and to take the opportunity by win-win. So all these investment opportunities are waiting for the right investor to come in Kuwait, and Kadiba is the right way to take you to this kind of investment, and we work with the investor because the success of the investor in our market is of course success for our authority.
Kuwait ranks 25th in the world in terms of having a business-friendly environment. The country's leaders focus on strengthening their economy, sharing experiences with foreign corporations, and establishing a strong legal system in the country. The 5 main sectors that receive direct investment from foreign nations are oil, natural gas, infrastructure, advanced technology, and information technology. Due to increased foreign investment, the country's leaders are taking action to provide favorable conditions for investors. For example, to reduce corruption, the country established an anti-corruption agency and created laws to protect the rights of investors. The leaders of the country believe that only a well-established legal system and following international economic standards are the way to opening up new opportunities for the country's economy and to show that they are a democratic country. To diversify Kuwait's economic income, the Emir introduced the Vision 2035 development program in 2017. This development program will turn Kuwait into a trade, finance and tourism center among Persian Gulf countries, and the economy of the nation will become independent from the oil industry. The country's leaders made a 5-year plan to implement this strategy and budgeted a total of 26 billion dinar or $84 billion for the program. Kuwait is taking into account that natural resources will run out someday and are planning to improve other sectors so that the country is not entirely dependent on the oil industry.
2035 is starting from 2010. So it's the 25 years. So we have 5 years, every 5 years we have a proper target. So what we do by law, according to the law, we have 5-year mid-year plan, which we call it 5-year plan. And in this 5-year we have annual operational plan. So every 5 years we have a law, it's called Kuwait National Development Plan Law. We did the 10-15, now we are in the 15-20, and we are right now moving to 2025. And every 5 years we have a proper target. The first one is to set the legal structure of the country. Because if you want to make the private sector lead the economy, you need proper laws and regulation. And the way we make laws here in the country, it is to go to the National Assembly, pushing for the laws, negotiating the laws, making sure they pass for the benefit of the country. That takes a long time, huh? In any democratic system, it's back and forth. So the first 5 years we managed to make 37 laws, which are very good laws, in order to set the economy in motion. On the next 5 years, the 15-20, which are these years, we build more infrastructure to make sure we have the right infrastructure for the private sector to flourish. So if you look at the country now, in these 5 years, we build a lot of roads. We expanded the roads. We have airport now is on progress. We have Terminal 4 is being done. More in Mubarak Port, which is in the north side of the country. There are several major infrastructure projects, as well as ICT. Now Kuwait now ranked the second after South Korea in the 5G stations per capita. So we have 5G, we have the ICT project, these to build a proper infrastructure. The third wave is to make sure the private sector engaged. The wave after is to make sure that knowledge economy is starting to be shown in the country. And the last 5 years is to make sure sustainability on a smart country, which is coinciding with our Kuwait Master Plan. The Kuwait National Development Plan and the Kuwait Master Plan should go together.
Kuwait plans to implement Vision 2035 through the current advantages of the country has. Simply stated, the government's vision is to develop the economy based on Kuwait's vast amount of natural resources and its people. Within the framework of Vision 2035, the Kuwait Future Mega Projects was implemented. They are planning to establish a place called Silk City on an artificial island. Silk City will be home to numerous tourist attractions, hotels, spas and public gardens. The city will be built in separate phases, with total completion expected within 25 years. Development will cost an estimated 25 billion dinar or $132 billion. Upon construction, it would include the Burj Mubarak Al Kabir, a nature reservation of 2 square kilometers and a duty-free area located beside a new airport, in addition to large business centers, conference areas, environmental areas, athletic areas, and areas that concentrate on media, health, education, and industry. Silk City will be connected to Kuwait City via the Sheikh Jabir Al Ahmad Al Sabah Causeway, which was completed and inaugurated on May 1st, 2019. Currently, a Kuwaiti cultural district is being constructed with a budget of $1 billion. This project is considered one of the world's biggest investments in the cultural sector, and the established cultural centers are the biggest in the Middle Eastern region. The biggest opera house in the Middle East is in Kuwait. The country's government developed a policy to represent Arab culture and traditions around the world. and to become the biggest cultural center in the region. Kuwait's humanitarianism is a model for the world, and the UN named the emir a leader in humanitarian work and recognized the nation as a humanitarian center. Kuwait's Red Crescent Society is one of the country's main vehicles for humanitarian aid. Established in 1965 as part of the International Red Crescent Society, this organization has provided humanitarian aid in over 90 countries. They perform various community roles in Kuwait, targeting all those in need of support, providing aid and assistance to overcome difficulties, tragedies and suffering, which fosters its humanitarian and social welfare efforts.
For refugees in Syria, of course, the government, they donate some money, and we use this money along, depends on their needs in the winter and the summer and the diseases. Like 2 days ago, I was vice chairman with a couple doctors. They went to Jordan to make surgeries for the refugees there. Also, we have hospital, and of course, each country, like in Lebanon and in Jordan, we have different things. We have hospitals for them, of course, and we have many surgeries. We have food, we have tents.
Today, the Kuwait Red Crescent Society is focusing on one of the biggest refugee crises in the world, the Syrian refugee crisis, and providing humanitarian aid for those in need. The introduction of technological advancements has greatly improved the effectiveness of their humanitarian aid efforts. The Disaster and Emergency Management Center was established under the Ministry of Information in 2012. This organization developed an information system in cooperation with the Red Crescent Society, which monitors all disasters and disaster-related information. Modern Kuwait City was built with Western architecture. For example, the Parliament building, a jewel of the city, and the Kuwait Towers were built by renowned Danish architect Melene Bajorn. Due to the lack of pure groundwater, water purification systems are highly developed in the country. Kuwait Towers are known as the Mushroom Towers, and these water towers are symbol of Kuwait City's image. To create a modern method for reserving water, Kuwait's government constructed 31 water towers in 1976 in cooperation with a Swedish engineering company. Each of these 31 towers contains 3,000 cubic meters of water. It is hard to imagine a small nation with a population of only 4 million people becoming one of the wealthiest and most prosperous nations in the world. Kuwait reached this status through the development of its oil industry, a stable economic system, and flexible economic policy. One would think that Kuwait itself is a pearl hidden in the desert.
أسري مع الهوى